Okay guys, I got something a little different. We're gonna be working on the blue truck today. I got something new for it that I'm really excited about. So if you watched the update, you know that the interior is kind of on hold until seats showed up. But guess what showed up? Seats from Corbeau. These are the Corbeau DFX seats. I'm really pumped about them. And yeah, I'm just super excited to get these things installed in the truck. As soon as they're installed, basically, I can do the rest of the tube work inside, and then we can start sheeting in the whole thing and start making it look like a real cab. So really pumped about that. There's a few reasons why I went with the Corbeau DFX, and I will get into that. But first, I just wanted to say that if this is the kind of video that you guys want to see, realistically, the only way for me to know that is if you're commenting and liking and all that stuff. So if you don't want to see it, maybe just comment that you don't want to see it. But if you do want to see it, comment, do all that stuff, because otherwise I don't know. So yeah, anyway, let's get into these seats and then we're gonna build some brackets and mount them in the truck. Let's get to it. Right now, you're kind of in where the pedals are gonna be, where my feet will be sitting. And so if you're looking straight back towards the back of the truck, right here, you see the output flange for the front drive shaft. So this, and then the frame is right here. So the frame and the top of the flange are, the flange is even a little higher than the frame. So you can see these tubes here. So I have this tube here and this tube here, just 1-inch tube. These are gonna be what the seat is mounted to and what I sheet around when I do all the sheet metal. So they're shaped like that, kicking up like that, so that the drive shaft has clearance so that it can go under my butt, under my legs, and then kick over. It's gonna be a 2-piece drive shaft. So that's why this side's a little more complicated. So my plan is to build a side mount piece that comes over here, and then I'm gonna do a bottom mount piece right here. And what I thought would be interesting is, and you guys tell me if it is or it isn't, but I thought I would show you my process for measuring, getting the dimensions I need, and then actually designing this part in CAD. I'll just do the outside one. It'll be really boring if you just watch me do CAD for everything. But this is a pretty basic shape. It's just gonna be sheet metal with a bend and nothing crazy fancy, but you know, if you're getting into this kind of thing and you wanna start fiddling around with Fusion or different CAD programs, maybe it's helpful. I'm gonna design everything. I'm gonna show you how I make it. And then we're gonna get this seat mounted and then I'm gonna sit in it. I'm really excited for that. All right, so like I said, these are the Corbeau DFX seats. They're a bucket seat, but they're not a shell bucket seat like a true racing seat would be. But they're also not really like your typical suspension seat, even though they are a tube frame with the suspension. These are really cool because they have the side mount option as well as bottom mount, whereas most suspension seats are only going to be mounted on tabs on the bottom. And the other difference is that these are really thin. The base of the seat is about here, like the base of the cushion. So they're only like 2.5 inches from the bottom to where your butt goes. Whereas most suspension seats are quite a lot thicker, like 3.5, 4 inches from where they mount to the cushion. The other reason I went with these is it was really hard for me to find seats that have the harness holes in the right spot. Most of them were really low, so they were like right in between my shoulder blades, and you don't want your harnesses to come down off the back of your shoulder like that, because it like sucks you down in a crash. And it can really hurt your back. I already have a bad back. These ones are actually tall enough. Plus there's all this extra space. So, you know, if someone's a little shorter than me, the harness is still gonna come through the seat straight from the mounting point instead of, you know, going from the harness point to the seat and then up or down or whatever. This gives you lots of tolerance for different driver heights. Another reason why I love these seats is that the shoulder bolsters fit me perfect. But not only that, the last seats that I was gonna try, this part, the bolsters on the side here stuck out really far that when I want to move my arms and stuff, my elbow kept hitting it, especially if like I want to yank on that handbrake. These ones are cut out in a way that like I have full movement. Really pumped on that. So yeah, there's a bunch of reasons like that why I was pumped on these seats. Also, I got them in vinyl because, you know, we're in the snow, the mud, the rain, all that kind of stuff. And I can just wipe these off, whereas cloth, they just get full of dust. These will be hotter if they're in the sun, but we're in BC. We don't really know what the sun even is, so no problem there. And because of that, Corbeau actually installed seat heaters in these seats, which is super dope of them. So I have 4 of these seats, but today we're just gonna work on the driver's side seat. It is the most complicated one to install because I have the drive shaft and everything else in the way. So once I have the driver's seat in, then I'm gonna move on to the rest of the seats. But I figured, how many seats do you really want to see get mounted? So I'll start with the driver one. It's the most exciting one anyway. That's gonna be my seat. So really pumped on these seats. Thanks, Corbeau. Super stoked. Yeah, we're gonna have to get a bit creative with this, but I have a plan, I think, that's gonna use the bottom mounts on one side and the side mounts on the other side. It's not gonna be very adjustable, but that doesn't really matter to me because I'm the one that's driving it and it's gonna fit me perfect. So yeah. So the first thing I have to do is get the seat in the truck just so I can kind of figure out where I want to be positioned so I can get measurements and make the mounts. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put some random things in there, sticks or levels or whatever I got, and I'm gonna put that stuff in there and kind of balance the seat and try and sit in it without falling over. And then I can actually make my measurements off of that once I kind of find a comfortable sitting position. So that's the first step here. All right, so I've kind of found a position that I think is pretty comfortable. I got headroom, my feet are in the right spot, I can reach everything, the steering wheel feels good, and I just gotta take some measurements. So basically, what I'm gonna do is I need the height of the side mounts. I know the seat is kind of crooked right now. I'm not gonna worry about the inner mounts. I'm gonna start with the outer mount. Once that is tacked in place and the seat is bolted to it, then I can get really precise with the inside and I'll make those measurements and I'll build that second. I feel like starting with these outside ones is gonna be the easier way to go. Okay, so from the bottom of the level, which is the top of the frame, to the bolt hole is basically dead on 6 inches. So that's to the front, mind you, and I do have the seat tilted back because it's just way more comfortable. So 6 inches in the front, and in the back, 6 and 4 1/4. So it's 1 3/4 inch difference. That might be actually too much. I might go 1.5 inch difference. So yeah, but we'll figure it out in the computer. So 6, 4.5. No, 4 1/4. Okay, and then I have my distance here, which is 11 3/8. All right, so what else do I need? I need the distance from the outside of the seat where the plate goes to the plate. That distance is 2 inches. So we got 2 inches out from the frame and 6 inches up from the frame on the front and 4 1/4 back. All right, well, I guess that means we can start designing something. All right, guys, so welcome to my office. I got a racing sim in here that I don't get to use as much as I wish. I got my chair, I got my little zone, and then here I have my desk where I do most of my work and I spend quite a lot of time. So I just show you that because it's probably not a zone that you see very often. All right, so I'm gonna just do a screen capture here if I can figure out how, and then we'll just kind of talk through what I'm doing as I design it. All right, let's go. So we are in Fusion 360, and I'm going to start the same way I always do, and that is making a new component. Going to title it driver's side outboard seat mount. So if you just start drawing just right in the main thing here, you're going to just run into a ton of problems, whereas I try to make every piece I design out of a new component. So I have a whole bunch of components here. Like if you look at this design, you can see I have a ton of components. So each component has a ton of components. So like, anyway, just always make a new component for each thing you're going to design. That's my tip to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on what we're going to call the front, which is actually going to be the side. Okay, so we're making a sketch here. I'm going to turn construction lines on, and I'm going to make a line, and this is basically going to just be kind of our measurement. So like we said when we took our measurements, we want 6 inches up, and then it's 11.375, that's 3/8 back, and then we're going to come back here, and we're going to go 68. Okay, so now what I can do is I can make this line horizontal. I can make this line horizontal. Oh, it already is. And now I can hit D and I can dimension this line. So that was going to be 4 1/4, but I'm actually going to do 4 1/2. So I want a little less lean than what we had there. And actually what I think is, I'm going to do it even a little more different. I'm going to go 5.75. I kind of felt when I was in the truck that I wanted a little more tilted forward and just like a lower. So I think this is going to be perfect. So now we know this line here is kind of where the frame is. And this line here, these 2 points are where the holes are. So now what we can do is we can get rid of construction lines by doing X. And instead of creating just a circle, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a slot. And the reason is then I can move the seat back and forth just a little bit, just so once it's welded in, I'm like, oh, you know what? I wish it was 1/2 inch forward. I have that room to play with. So I'm going to create here, and I'm going to go to slot, and I'm going to go center point slot. So we know the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go forwards. Oh, how big should I make it? Like 1.5 inches. So I'll go 0.75 forward. And then they're 1/4 inch bolts. I did measure that as well. So because of plasma, you have to oversize everything because it's not exact. So I'm going to go 0.32. Boom. All right. So we have a 1.5 inch by 0.32 slot. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing again over here in the back. Boom. 0.75. Blam. And then 0.32. So 0.32 I'll record. This is just something I've learned over like years of using my table, is that, you know, for different sizes you have to go up certain amounts to get the bolt to actually fit through without having to grind it out or drill it out. If I needed something super dialed, then I would actually cut it the exact size, then drill it. But this, for a slide hole like this, it doesn't really need to be super exact. All right, so now I have the frame down here, but I don't need to worry about that too much. I also have a measurement from the bottom of the seat hole to the actual bottom of the seat, because I have to bend this plate over to the frame, right? So I want to make sure that I bend it below where the actual bottom of the seat is. So I know that that measurement is about 1.75 inches. So we'll call it 2 inches. So with that in mind, I'm going to go here right in the center, and I'm going to make a 2.5 inch. And then I'm going to go in the center here. I do another 2.5 inch circle Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing back here. I'm gonna go 3-inch circle. Boom. Now I can dimension where the circle goes from my dot there. And I'm gonna say it is 0.6. Now I can do the same thing back here. Boom, boom. 0.6. All right, and then I have this circle here, and I will make it a 3-inch circle as well. So now everything's kind of lined up. Now what I'm gonna do is hit L for line, and I can go from here to here. Notice that it like locks into tangent. That's what I want. And now I'll go here, tangent. Now I'm gonna hit the tangent straight up here. Boom, to that circle, and this line, this circle. Now they're all tangent. So now what I can do is hit T for trim and just cut away all the excess. And now I have these nice flowing lines. Okay, what I'm actually going to do is I can go blam across here. Make sure that's a flat line. Now I can dimension this with D from the center, bottom. What do we say that was? 2 inches to the bend, right? So, actually, no. I have to make sure that this is the rear one, because if I did it off the front one, which is higher. So we're gonna go 2 inches from there. Now what I can do is I can go line, and I can go from here, tangent on that circle, and then from here, tangent on that circle. I'll make sure that it's vertical. Make sure that this one's vertical. Now I'm gonna hit T again, and I can just get rid of all the excess stuff. So I got these lines, this line, this line, this one. Same thing over here, just getting rid of all the excess circle. So now what we have is this kind of flowy shape with the 2 little slots in. And I think this should look pretty dang good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish. Okay, so now we have this shape. So what we're going to do is go into sheet metal. So I almost successfully work in sheet metal because basically build everything out of sheet metal. I'm going to create this shape out of sheet metal, and I'm going to use 1/8" steel, and it's going to create a new body. Okay. So now we can see that it's a 3D piece of metal here, which is great. So now what we need to do is we need to build this that it comes over like this, like so that it meets the frame. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a sketch, and we're gonna create it on this edge, so it's right directly on that plane. So now what I can do is I can see our origin, and then I can make it come over 2 inches, and I can make it come down the rest of the way. So I'm gonna start a sketch. I'm gonna do P for project, and I'm gonna select that edge. Now it gives us all these points here that we can work from. So now what I can do is make a line. I'm gonna make a construction line. I'm gonna come down. Actually, I don't even need to make it a construction line. So I'm gonna execute it. All right, so now that we have this line here, what we can do is we can dimension it from this point to this point down, and we know that that needs to be 2 inches, which it is. And then we can dimension from this point to this point, and that needs to be 2.5 inches. Boom. All right, so just so you know, I don't really know what I've just taught myself from trying things and doing it over YouTube, or learning over YouTube. But basically what you can do then is you take your line and you create a flange, and you click on your line, and boom. Now that we have this piece, I don't like how this looks as it's just like a big old hump. So I'm going to do another sketch on this surface. E for project. I'm going to select that, hit OK.
So now I have the box. So what I want to do is I want to have kind of like same as up here, that like nice groovy slot. I want the same thing down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line. I want to create a line, and I want it to be a construction line dead in the center, just like so. Alright, so now I can create a circle. It doesn't need to be construction anymore. And I can do the same thing to match. Oops, middle. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing, a 3-inch circle. And we are using this top edge. So I bring it down, and I will dimension from here to here. I'll dimension that as half an inch. Alright, so now what I can do is I can do a line from down here, tangent on this circle. I can do a line from down here, tangent on this circle. Now I can dimension from here to here, and I want to have, so this is where it's going to be welded to the frame, and I want a decent surface. So I'm going to say 3 inches. Same with over here. I'm going to make that 3 inches as well. Alright, so now I can go T for trim, get rid of the rest of my little circle there. And there, now we have that shape there. So you can see that I can select just that shape. So I'm going to go to extrude, select that. I can spin it around, click the back side. So now it just cuts the thickness of the metal. Hit OK, and boom. Alright, we kind of have our shape here. So if you can tell, the seat will be sitting here. The back of the seat goes up over here. Our 2 side mount bolts there. And then this is where the frame will be, and it welds down here. Now, I'm sure that if we were cool, we could put some sort of funky designs in here and make it look neat. But honestly, at this point, I don't really care that much. So what we gotta do is, first of all, save. I have such a bad habit of not saving. So seat, mount, saving in the blue Tacoma. There we go. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to work from our home component, I guess you call it, instead of this one. So what I'll do is I'll go there. We can minimize that. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little funky here. So we're going to unfold this piece, just like so. Hit OK. So now that this is just flat, what I want to do is basically like with my bender, I could set it all up that it has the back gauges and I just plop it in and boom, bend things, whatever. But I'm lazy because that's actually quite a lot of work. So what I'm actually going to do is, I preemptively unfolded this, is I'm going to make a sketch on this surface with it flat. And what I'm going to do is project this middle, so these are the lines of where the bend is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make these tiny little circles just right in the center of that. I'm going to make them 0.15, just like so. And then same thing on this side, right in the middle, 0.15. And what that's going to do is as it cuts, as the plasma cuts, it's going to do a little tiny little notch right there. And then I can line that up with my bender, and I can bend it right on that spot. All right, so now that we've done that, we can go up to our main kind of overall component. And so now we're going to hit F for search. I've already put boundary fill in here, but normally you would type in boundary fill. You can link it to your shortcuts, which I've done, so because I use this all the time. All right, so now we're in the boundary fill tool. Click your part, click cells. I'm going to create a new component. Now I'm going to hit OK. Now we can refold our faces. So now what we have is we have 2 separate components. We have our original bent one, and we have just a flat one. So I'm going to use the flat one for cutting, because obviously I can't cut a bent piece. So this is for if you're cutting stuff on a plasma table. So I've done that. Before I get too far, I'm going to hit save. And now I can go into manufacture. So I'll hit that. So now what I've done is I've set up a bunch. So with my plasma table, I use a Hypertherm 45 XP as the plasma cutter. So I've taken all of their kind of recommended specs and specs I've found over time, and I've input them already in for all the kind of stuff that I normally cut. So I know that this is 1/8" steel, but I've always just used the 10 gauge setting and it's worked great. So I'll do that here. So now the cutter is already set up with my predetermined specs. Now I just gotta select, I don't know, maybe if one of you guys knows how to just select the whole body as one instead of having to do each part of the surface. That'd be cool and save me a bunch of time. But anyway, you select all the parts you want to cut. And then over here, you can kind of mess around with a few different little tolerances and stuff. The main one you need to know is lead-in distance, sweep angle, all that stuff. Honestly, some people are really picky about this stuff. I don't really care that much. I usually just leave it unless it doesn't work. So if you're cutting a circle and that circle is really small and your lead-in distance is too big, it just won't work. So you can just change this lead-in distance to be smaller and then it will cut. You just don't want that like big divot right where it starts cutting and it just leaves a divot. So when you have a longer lead-in distance, the pierce doesn't leave that divot there. But anyway, I just kind of leave it stock because I guess like some people go crazy over that stuff and I just don't like it. All right, so simulate with the machine just to check that it actually cuts everything. So it cuts our slots, then it cuts our outside shape. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so we know that it's going to cut the correct amount. So now we can create our G code. So I hit G code, I label it driver's side, outside, feet mount, and then I can hit post. So because I use a Langmuir XR table, I have fire control. That's kind of their post-processing. You can download that straight from Langmuir. If you have a different kind of table, you can need your own different post-processor for whatever table you use. So anyway, that's done. I hit post. Now I've created an email address specifically for my plasma table. So I'm going to send the file over there and then we can get cutting. So I'll meet you over at the table. All right, so we are here at the Langmuir XR table. I have my file loaded up on the computer here. So I'm going to cut it. But there is no water in the table right now. I let it all evaporate because it is just full of just disgusting grime and metal chunkies and stuff. So I need to clean it out. So I let all the water evaporate, but I haven't had time to actually clean it yet. So it's going to be a little smoky, but that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, let's get cutting. Start. Here we go. It's cleaned up, it's bent, everything looks good. So I'm gonna tack it into the truck and bolt the seat up. And then we can start measuring for the other side. So that's kind of what it looks like. I think it looks pretty good, you know? Kind of
you know, it's just in there. But now we got a bolt on the inside. And so the reason that I'm not gonna bolt it on the side again is because these bolts are gonna be really hard to get at, you know, in that little space. So I'm gonna mount it from the bottom. So I'll just get under there. Yeah. Whoa! Things are falling. All right. So we can see, I don't know if we can see, but here there's a bolt. And here there's a bolt. And I have this bar and I have this bar. So I'm gonna do something that comes up, and then goes straight forward all the way to the other one. And they'll also be slotted so that I can still move the seat back and forth. And will they be a pain to get at? Probably. Will they be as much of a pain as if they were on the side? It's really hard to say. Because you can see that there's not a lot of room there, especially once it's all sheet metaled in. But this is also going to be tricky, so we shall see. Oh, I got dogs. The dogs are going crazy here. What is going on? Why are you like this? Ah. Okay, so I've been here for a while. It's dark outside now. But anyway, I got a tube welded in here, or just tacked in for now. That's gonna give me another C-mount. So doing this inner mount is more complicated than I was kind of anticipating. But this is what I've come up with. So I designed this in the computer, basing it off the measurements that basing it off the measurements from the piece I already designed. So in CAD, I kind of modeled off of that. I made a bracket on the bottom that bolts straight to the seat but has a bend in it. And then I made two tabs that have nuts welded to them that are gonna weld to that tube that I put in the truck. So the idea is that these are still slotted, so the seat can still move back and forth if I want to move it back and forth, but it's going to be very low profile, and it should hopefully all line up that the seat is level and everything. So basically I'm ready to pop this seat in. We're going to bolt it to the side mount that we already installed previously. See how these tabs line up with the tube that I installed, and then if they all line up, I'll tack them in, pull the seat out one more time, get everything kind of situated and solid, and I'll bolt the seat in one more time just to make sure. So it's been a bit more of a chore than I was expecting. This side is, the driver's seat is the most complicated one, so hopefully everything else is easier going forward, but yeah. So this is where we're at. So yeah, let's bolt this thing in. She's in. Man, that was honestly a bit more work than I was kind of expecting, but that's kind of how everything is on this truck. You think that, oh, I'm just gonna mount some seats, and then it takes you half a day to mount one seat. But I mean, if you buy Corbeau seats and you're just bolting them into your truck, they have like all sorts of bolt-in mounts with slides and all sorts of stuff that makes it super easy, like literally the easiest thing ever. But if your truck looks like mine's, it's not gonna be as easy. But man, I am pumped on how this has come out. Hey Toby, you pumped? You pumped? Dude, that looks so good. So I have an 1.5 inches of adjustment forward and back. You do have to, like, you know, it's gonna be a pain in the ass once the floor is in there to actually get back there and adjust that, but it's possible. And you know, that's just the way things are sometimes. So man, I'm super stoked on how this looks. And yeah, let's just look at it through the front here. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know if you can really see it. I'm too far away for the goby. Yeah, Corbeau just peeking through there over the dash. That's gonna be sick. I can't wait to have the other front one in. So yeah, I didn't show really the process of doing the other side. I wanted to get it actually done. But you know, you get the idea of what I've done. And so I'm gonna do something similar on the other side, just hopefully it's easier. And especially now that I have it figured out, it should go a bit quicker. But that's the driver's seat install. I don't know if that was helpful. I don't know if you like these kind of videos. I just figured I'd film it because I'm doing it and I want to try and do more with the blue truck, get you guys stoked, and maybe you can learn something. Or maybe I can learn something because you guys probably know way more about CAD and fabrication than I do. I'm just kind of figuring it out as we go here. So thanks for watching. If you do have any advice for me, please comment. If you don't, but you liked it, please comment. Like I said before, this is the only way that I know that this is something that you're actually interested in. And yeah, till next time, bye.